Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for this webinar with Cambium Networks. Today's host is Bruce Miller, and he is their Vice President of Enterprise Marketing, and he'll be presenting today. If there's any questions, please submit them in the box, and Bruce will be able to answer them at the end of today's presentation. Bruce, thank you so much for being with us. We greatly appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing what you've got from Cambium Networks that you'll be sharing with us. I am finished for now, so please go ahead and take it on over.
Great, thanks, Julie, and welcome everyone to this webinar. So we're going to talk a little bit about Cambium Networks, and I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with us, so I'll just start off with a little bit of an introduction to what we do, and then we're going to dive in specifically to Wi-Fi 7, which is a new Wi-Fi technology, the latest generation, and there's some pretty exciting things related to that. And so we want to basically set the stage on why Wi-Fi 7 is important and what you should know about it as we go into 2025. So I'm on the product management, product marketing side of things for Cambium on the enterprise space, and I've been here about 5 years. And so we'll talk kind of in general about where we sit here first with our technology as a company before diving into the more specifics on Wi-Fi 7. But kind of to start off, Cambium is a company that you probably know about, or if you've heard of us, you associate with wireless. We make wireless solutions both for indoor Wi-Fi, outdoor Wi-Fi, and then long haul building to building, site to site, point to point wireless that can be used as an alternative way to deliver internet services. There's cable, there's fiber, there's wireless. We make the wireless portion for a lot of the ISPs around the US and around the world that deliver internet services. So that combination together is a pretty powerful combination. And our premise here to kind of start off with in terms of setting what the challenges are is, we expect internet service, the Wi-Fi, the ISP that we're connected to, we expect that kind of service to be available all the time. It's always on, and it is delivering a utility grade kind of service, right? That is what we expect. But a lot of people will run into problems with that. Slow performance, high latency, they get disconnected, and usually they blame it on the Wi-Fi, right? I mean, the Wi-Fi at the end of the day is what they're connecting to. But there can be many, many things behind that ultimately create problems, right? So your device, your laptop, your tablet, your phone may have an issue connecting to the wireless service and you can't get on the internet. But behind the scenes, there's many, many things that could go wrong to create that problem. And Cambium looks at this from a holistic perspective. We sell a lot of wireless solutions, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of pieces to create an end-to-end connection. So in this picture, we have devices on the left of all types, our tablets, our laptops, et cetera, but also IoT devices, right? Could be cameras, could be sensors or door locks. I mean, there's all types of devices that connect to the network. They connect to the Wi-Fi, and behind that, there are different components that ultimately create the services that get us to the internet on the far right. Cambium makes all of these solutions, and the benefit of pulling these all into a single network are significant. And we'll talk through those in a second. It also needs to be a secure environment. And one of the things that we do is package some of these pieces that you see on the right into what we call the network service edge that creates a security around the entire network and provides you that peace of mind that you are creating an end-to-end solution that is managing all of the traffic and all the flow within your business, within the business that you're selling into in a holistic fashion. And what are the advantages of that? Because the advantages of having one network approach to it, which Cambium does, are significant. And these include, first of all, that security that I just talked about, looking at everything end to end and understanding the flow of the traffic through the entire network, understanding where the vulnerabilities are and alerting you to that. We can talk about automating and configuring the entire network holistically from one place. We have a solution called CN Maestro that really is the maestro of the network. It's orchestrating the entire thing. It all comes back into a single pane of glass, and I can see what the Wi-Fi is doing, I can see what the security is doing, and I can manage that all holistically in one place. very, very powerful to be able to do that. We can also run analytics, and this is increasingly where we are a cloud-first, cloud-native organization in terms of bringing all of this network information into one place in the cloud, and then being able to do some very intelligent things with that information using AI-based tools, providing analysis so that you don't have to. The assurance function, which is what we call it, can reduce troubleshooting problems that used to take half an hour or an hour, requires me to look at logs and packet captures. Now it'll tell me what's going on in a couple minutes. I can figure out what the issue is. And we've literally heard this over and over again as far as the use cases from our customers that are benefiting from this. So as a cloud-based solution, we have that advantage of sitting on the back end of this network and collecting the data, all private, right? This is not something that you have to worry about the privacy side, but we provide a significant amount of value to customers through this AI solutions. Another advantage of an end-to-end network is application level intelligence. We built in to this solution an understanding of what applications are running on the network. So if I am running a YouTube video, I might deprioritize that in my business as opposed to SAP or Oracle or some kind of database or Salesforce automation system. Or if I'm in a school, I might want to emphasize Blackboard or learning applications as opposed to social media or a sporting app, for example. We can make those distinguishing identifications of apps within the system and then prioritize and block or throttle those that are not important. So normally that oftentimes is perceived as being a firewall function on the far right. We can do it at the edge of the network right on the Wi-Fi AP as well. And together our systems work to really make an application intelligent view of the world, which is very powerful. Another advantage of end-to-end solutions are technical support. So one throat to choke, so to speak, one place to call with issues. Things like training, it's integrated. You're learning about the entire network as opposed to one piece of it. And this list could really go on, but what we call one network and being able to deliver all these aspects of the solution in a very cost-effective manner is really the key advantage of Cambium. And I'm just kind of summarizing those kind of the top three things if you want to think about Cambium, why Cambium and how we're different. The simplicity of one network. We have a lot of things that we won't get into today, but that really reflect back to a high performance solution in many ways that we deliver that, and that ultimately leads to better user experiences and makes a more efficient delivery of the network. And then underlying all of that is we have very compelling price points. We reduce the amount of equipment that you need in many cases, and that translates to the bottom line as well. So simplicity, performance, economics are three kind of pillars of the Cambium story. And with that quick introduction, I want to then jump into the primary topic here today, which is Wi-Fi 7. And Wi-Fi 7 is the latest generation of technology within the Wi-Fi space. There's been 7 generations, and we're on the latest now. Each generation brings out new capabilities that are better and faster and more efficient. But what's really important about that, right? Because these all seem to kind of blend together. As we go into 2025, there has been Wi-Fi 7 products out for a couple of years in the market, some that were pre-standard. But 2025 is really perceived as being kind of the tipping point where we really see Wi-Fi 7 going into the mainstream, and I have a little bit of prediction about that in here as well. So let's talk about where Wi-Fi 7 is and how it fits into our spaces today. So first off, faster, right? Less latency, faster and reduced latency and higher densities. These are the kinds of things that you might associate with why you would be looking at a new technology. If you're stuck back with a Wi-Fi 4 device or older devices, your performance, your speeds are obviously way less. These are the generation 4, 5, 6, 7 that have come along over the last 10 plus years. Actually goes back to even further than that, probably about 2008 is when Wi-Fi 4 or 11N was introduced. And you can see that the maximum speeds have increased over time, and there's many things that have made this more efficient. The applications have sometimes driven the use for needing faster speeds. But in some cases, the technology gets ahead of that, right? Like we have the faster speeds before we need it with the applications. But with AR, VR, and in schools, online testing and heavy use of video, we are tasking a lot of the networks that are still running in Wi-Fi 4 and 5, and the need to move up to 6 and 7 has definitely been evident with a lot of our customers. So, you might look at the Wi-Fi 7 and say 46 gig, is that really real? And some of these numbers, they are real, but they're specific to certain use cases. So just to kind of understand those numbers a little bit more, 46 gig is kind of like the maximum number or speed that you could associate with Wi-Fi 7. But that requires the biggest possible channels and the most possible streams that the spec allows. And so the chart there kind of shows you how you get to 46. But what's more practical for a device that you're using, your phone or your laptop, most of these devices only have 2 streams, so they're called a 2x2. And then they don't use the full width of the channels that you can use in Wi-Fi. They might use an 80 meg channel, which is about 1/4 of the maximum. And so at the end of the day, when you calculate all those things out, you get to about 1 gig. So think of it in those terms. Most Wi-Fi clients are going to be getting to that 1 gig capable level if they have the latest technology and they're using Wi-Fi 7 in a practical sense. So your mileage may vary. You can get more or less, but the access points that we're delivering today are multi-gig units, and a max speed that a lot of clients today can get to is about 1 gig. So that's pretty good. That gets you to wired Ethernet equivalency. Gigabit Ethernet's been out for some time, but you're talking the technology exists today that wireless can get to that level. If I'm talking about point-to-point connections between 2 APs, I might establish a mesh link, and maybe that exceeds the 1 gig. But just kind of keep that in mind as far as where Wi-Fi is today in terms of the relevant performance to you as a client. So there's a couple things when it comes to thinking about the performance of a Wi-Fi network. You can think of those maximum speeds that we mentioned, but also the capacity of the network, because you are sharing that load. It's not just you out there speeding along, getting 1 gigabit speeds, but the technology is really designed to increase the capacity so that many people, many users of the network, many devices online can use that higher speed at the same time. And so there's a trade-off, and there's both components to think about. The maximum speed that you could possibly get, but also the fact that the technology is allowing multiple users to access the network at the same time. And Wi-Fi 7 brings about new technologies to allow that, to allow multiple users to benefit from a connection simultaneously. The older Wi-Fi technologies, going back to Wi-Fi 4 and 5, they didn't allow multiple users to transmit at once. But now we have multiple users, multiple links, multiple streams, and it increases the overall capacity of the medium and make it more efficient. And so that's the world that we're really getting to with Wi-Fi. Is more and more it's getting closer to how cellular networks work, but it has higher capacity because it's a shorter range technology that we use indoors, or outdoors, but typically with much lower, much smaller dimensions, right? The distances are a lot closer between the client and the infrastructure than they are in communicating to a cell tower. So you have high speeds, and now with that greater efficiency overlaid onto it, you can start to really see the benefits of density and capacity in those networks. So Wi-Fi has multiple bands, frequency bands, which you probably have heard of. There's 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz. The 6 gigahertz was the most recent addition to the Wi-Fi standard. And if you go back to, if I jump back to this slide right here, you can see that Wi-Fi 6E came out a few years back, and the 6E is where we added 6 gigahertz capabilities to the Wi-Fi standard. And now that is also supported in Wi-Fi 7, and moving forward, that frequency, that spectrum addition literally tripled the amount of spectrum available to Wi-Fi here in the US. Depending on where you are in the world, it may be less, but in the US, we have triple the bandwidth available, which is huge. In other words, what you used to be able to do, and kind of cramming down the limited bandwidth in 5 and 2.4, you have a significant greater ability to leverage Wi-Fi when you add 6 gigahertz in. And while 6E introduced that new band a few years back, Wi-Fi 7 is really where that becomes mainstream. And so that's a really big deal when it comes to why Wi-Fi 7 is important, because it's going to allow us greater access to this whole new spectrum, which is increasing the capacity and the speeds of the network. All right, let's jump to this next slide here. What is interesting about Wi-Fi 7 in terms of its capabilities? There's new features, like with every version of Wi-Fi that comes into play, faster rates, wider channels, things of that nature. We can get up to 320 megahertz wide channels today. There are a couple new things that are coming in. The bottom two, adaptive interference puncturing. That, imagine that red spike that you see there is interference on your network. The new standard can allow for adapting to that, so you can still broadcast on that channel and communicate, but it will the system will automatically account for that interference and work around it, as opposed to just being blocked entirely. So that's a really big benefit when it comes to communicating with wider channels, especially in noisy environments. And then MLO is really the most important one, multi-link operation. So this says it doesn't run today. That's a little bit of a misnomer. There are definitely MLO capable clients and solutions out today. And let's just talk a little bit more about MLO and what it is. If you look at the bottom link, the bottom picture, this is really where Wi-Fi started. Is you have the router or the AP on the left, and you have a client on the right, and you initially would just get a single link between those two. But as we moved into the next generation of Wi-Fi, you had the ability to communicate on multiple links, 2.4 or 5 gigahertz, because that was added to the standard. And now the communication can handle on either one. Slower on the 2.4, faster on the 5, but there's a choice. And if the client supported 5, then we would move them to the 5 gigahertz lane. But if you go to multi-link, MLO, now you have the ability to actually communicate simultaneously from a single device to the access point, and do that across all bands at the same time. So you get redundancy, you get better resiliency of the link, obviously greater capacity. So MLO is a really interesting and important feature for Wi-Fi 7, and really the real headliner feature for this technology. All right, I put in here a chart that just shows what an analyst that we work with, what their kind of expectations are. And this actually talks about the number of units of APs, so the actual number of access points that are shipped worldwide in enterprise Wi-Fi. And you can kind of see through the colors where the technology kind of kicks in. So the big blue swath right through there is Wi-Fi 6. And there's still the majority of Wi-Fi 6 being sold today in the market. That kind of what is that kind of rust color is Wi-Fi 6E, which is kind of an interim step that adds the 6 gigahertz. But the gray is Wi-Fi 7, and you can see that Wi-Fi 7 will grow to be the dominant technology over time. And in 2025, we're really seeing that explosion from maybe less than 15% of the APs to perhaps a third of them that are being delivered by the end of the year is expected to be Wi-Fi 7. So this is where the real growth is, and that's where we really see 2025 as being the fastest growing year, or really the year of Wi-Fi 7. And things like the holidays, right? We're coming up on Christmas, can even be a big kicker for new technologies like this, because if you look at what we have today with a lot of the devices that are shipping, iPhones and Samsung phones, so the iOS and the Android systems, they've been supporting Wi-Fi 7 and or 6 gigahertz for some time now, and we're at that tipping point where we really see by the end of this next year, 2025, half of mobile devices in primary markets, including the US, would support a 6E or 7, meaning the 6 gigahertz band. So the access to this higher speeds and the greater capacity of Wi-Fi 7 and the 6 gigahertz, we're right at that kind of tipping point. And again, going into the holidays, you're going to see a lot of people get gifts. They're going to be bringing these new devices back to the office, back to school in January. And you have a lot of technology upgrades that happen over the winter break and over the summer break, right? A lot of businesses, a lot of schools will target those times of the year to do their upgrades. So we're at that point where we're starting to really get to the place where the expectations are such that Wi-Fi 7, and I'm kind of combining that a little bit with 6E because they both add 6 gigahertz, but where Wi-Fi 7 in general with 6 gigahertz are going to become more and more the mainstream, and we can start to really see the benefits of those in our networks. You know, and that translates to faster speeds, lower latencies, all the things that make our internet connection just become, like I said up front, a utility. The expectation that when you plug in, when you connect, I shouldn't say plug in, when you connect to that wireless connection, you don't have to even think about it. Just like, you know, your water, your electricity, your gas, you know, internet is a utility, and these technologies are making it more and more to the point where these things are completely seamless from that perspective. So so that's a little bit of an overview of kind of where Wi-Fi 7 is at. You know, it is here today. It has some very important additions and things that we're very excited about. As Cambium, we have a Wi-Fi 7 solutions that's been shipping now for about 6 months in the market. Actually, a little bit more than that, about 7 or 8 months. And we have some new solutions coming out in the first part of next year that expand that product line. Some higher end products. You know, we'll ultimately be rolling out this technology across our entire portfolio. We also have a number of 6 gigahertz products as well that we ship today, both indoor and outdoor. So this technology is here today and can be had. And also one last note on that is, you know, when you go into a new technology, the pricing sometimes can be introduced at a little bit of a premium over what the previous was, because, you know, you're selling something that's kind of next gen. We purposely went to market with a product, our initial product, that is really kind of in the mid-range sweet spot of the market from a price perspective. So if you take a look at what we do for Wi-Fi 7, you'll find something that is very price effective and can be put into you know, many different kinds of use cases, not just high-end premium types of deployments. So that's, again, something that we do that keeps the technology economical and available to many customers. Okay. Within that wraps up my piece of things. Julie, hand it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Bruce. I appreciate that. Wonderful presentation. And yes, I do have a few audience questions for you. I will read off the first one. Here we go. How does one network handle data security and compliance?
Yeah, so the one network solution that I talked about, and if I kind of switch back over to here, the network services edge solution that essentially combines these services within the Cambium One Network framework. This solution delivers the security view of the entire network, and that's done through different ways. I talked about the application level visibility that we have. There's also a LAN vulnerability assessment tool that's built in that will scan the devices on the network and alert you to potential security threats based on that. And then there's also firewall type of functionality and layer 7 filtering that is executed in this product as well, because it's an edge device that sits on the WAN. So at the end of the day, security is a multi-layer type of consideration, layer 1 to layer 7 in the OSI stack, and we're executing at an application layer, and that can go all the way down to the physical layer, you know, locking your devices down even through, you know, the Wi-Fi access points have places where you can lock them into a Kensington lock on the ceiling. So layer 1 all the way to layer 7, that end-to-end story that we're kind of depicting here is executed with a multi-layer approach in the solution, but the NSC is really the key device at the edge that's tying it all together.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Bruce. Next question here. With Cambium networks, how does AI improve network performance optimization?
Yeah, good question. So, you know, AI is something that we've been investing quite a bit in over the last several years. And the key there is thinking in terms of all the data that you have available. We are a cloud native solution, as I mentioned, and so when we're managing these networks, there's a lot of information that's collected as part of the process of managing the network, and then we bring that into a central place, and then through our assurance solution, we process that data and then proactively put onto the dashboard of the the IT administrator CN Maestro console information that allows him to troubleshoot that. So when it comes to performance specifically, we can look at the channel selection, we can look at the RSSI levels between APs and what the clients are reporting and what their signal level is, or if they have errors or other issues, if they've failed a connection or dropped a connection. And so there's a whole list of things. It's in the many dozens of errors or issues that we will identify proactively with the AI engine and then display them for the user. So a little bit of drill down, you have a high level dashboard, you can see if there's problems, and then you can drill into where those problems are, and then we will show you and alert you to those issues and provide suggestions on how to mitigate the problem. So this comes down to performance level issues, to connection level issues, to RF types of things, and network services as well. And we're continuing to add and more to that framework. So there's a lot of work being done in this area. We have a lot there today, and we'll be coming out with some new releases in the new year that make it even better. So this is a big piece of the solution and the vision for how we mature our CN Maestro and our overall One Network offering.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bruce. Next question here for you. Can you tell us what partnerships or collaborations have been crucial to Cambium Network's success?
Yeah, so those kinds of things are at a lot of different levels, but we partner with our chipset suppliers, for one. For example, our radios, our switches, we use merchant silicon that is available, and then we create systems and build value add on there. So we focus on the software primarily. A lot of the hardware, the silicon chips that we use to create the Wi-Fi APs and things like that are used across the different vendors, but the value add is really on our software. So those partnerships are very important. We have very close relationships with Qualcomm and many other vendors to create the products that we make. We also partner with ODMs or manufacturers that help to create these systems. We specify them, and then they build the products for us so that we have economies of scale when it comes to manufacturing. And then I would say more broadly, we have a whole slew of ecosystem partners in the many dozens. And if you go on the Cambium website, you can see those. And these are vendors that have specializations in things like real-time location services, analytics, security. Some of them that are geared towards certain markets like education or otherwise. And again, there's dozens of them up there. You can kind of go there and see how we've partnered with these different providers. Many of them have integrated with us through APIs so that their value add solution, which in many cases goes above and beyond what we support, can add value to a Cambium network. And we've done the integration already, we've tested it, and now we can present a joint solution to a customer. So there's many partners that we have to execute our business, and that's a very key aspect of that. But I would definitely point to the ecosystem section of our website for some of the key partners in terms of who we work with.
Thank you so much for that, Bruce, and telling us where we can find this information on your website, which is, I know, full of very valuable information. Last question here for you. Does One Network require proprietary hardware?
So, I mean, the Cambium solution works with our software and the hardware together holistically, right? So proprietary, you could call it proprietary in the sense that it's our solution as a vendor, but it's interoperable in general. So we comply with the standards and the functionality of the Wi-Fi and the switching and the wireless standards and security standards that are out there. So there's in general, Cambium solutions are working with many other vendors from an overall network deployment perspective. But our management system works just with our Cambium gear. Right, we do have a few places where we will, support SNMP and some generic information from other devices. So I don't necessarily would use the word proprietary per se because we are very interoperable. In fact, we pride ourselves in being more so than many other vendors who do try to do vendor lock-in, and their software only works with their solutions. In our case, we have a very open approach to that, where more often than not, we're maybe plugged into a different switch or communicating with another wireless device that's doing another function in the close neighborhood. So we have an open approach to that. But the value add of the one network is when it is all Cambium, because then we have the optimal network that's holistic under one umbrella. So so kind of a multi-part answer to that question.
Bruce, thank you so much for answering all of those questions for us today. And also thank you to everyone attending today's webinar. And if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to contact your sales rep, or you can email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown today, please remember that this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so we can all view it again. Bruce, thank you so much for your time today. I greatly appreciate it. I will be reaching out to you. Perhaps you could tell us as Wi-Fi 7 grows and continues into the new year, what we can expect. Everybody, have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.